What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters. I'm David Wilson, and today we're going to kick off a new companion series to the Emacs from Scratch series that we've been working on so far. Basically to cover brief tips, like shorter videos for brief tips about how you can do certain things in Emacs. And we're going to call this Emacs Tips. I know this is not a very imaginative name, but we're going to go with that for now. Basically, I wanted to be able to cover topics that we don't really have time to cover in the Emacs from Scratch series because we kind of go through a very straight line from building up from scratch. But now we're going to try to cover some of the things that we missed while we're going through the initial initial topics in Emacs from Scratch. And the topic today is going to be how to show reminders for org mode tasks. So that's a topic that people asked about after the last couple of org mode videos. So I was thinking that's a pretty good thing to talk about because I've used it in the past to do the calendar sync into org mode, and having reminders for those calendar events is pretty helpful. So we're going to show 3 different packages that give you this capability, and we're going to show the pros and cons between them and also how to configure them to show notifications. So this video is being recorded live, and we have a couple people in the chat here. I just wanted to say hi to Kevin and to Sebastian. Thanks for both of you being here today. Please ask questions at any time. The reason why I'm streaming this live is because it's nice to have viewer feedback as we're going, to raise questions or to raise questions or to give feedback while we're going. Alex said it was uncomfortable, but I watched those ads. I didn't realize that ads showed up at the beginning of the stream. I apologize for that. Let me turn that off for the future so that the ads don't show up before the stream starts. All right, so today we're going to jump back into the code, and I'm not going to be using the configuration. I'm not going to be using the configuration file that we've been working on for Emacs from Scratch. What I'm going to do is have like separate, basically blog posts. Hi, John. Basically have separate blog posts that I'm going to put up on the website that I'm still working on right now, so it's not quite finished yet, but basically as a resource. So these blog posts will be able to give you the direct pieces of configuration you need, and then we may integrate some of this into the Emacs from Scratch config at some point in the near future. But for now, let's just assume that I'm going to have these at like a separate thing. They're going to have a life of their own. So what we see here is that I've got an org file that describes what we're doing. So today we're going to start by talking about org-alert. So org-alert is probably the simplest of all 3 packages that we're going to talk about. And basically, it just wraps John Weagley's alert.el package. And if you haven't seen that before, let me actually pull that up real quick. This is a pretty cool package, Emacs Alert.el. So this package basically provides you with ways to show notifications in Emacs, but with a variety of different, front ends or interfaces. So the most obvious thing would be to show a desktop notification. And in fact, if I were to copy this line here, this is an alert, and hit, Shift-Alt: and paste it into the mini buffer. So you can see I'm calling it alert, this is an alert, and press enter. Then you can see that it's telling me what buffer I'm currently in, which is a little bit weird, but it says this is an alert. So that's how easy it is. You basically just load up this alert.el package, and then in any part of your own code, you can call alert and then have a desktop notification show up. So the org alert package wraps this behavior and is able to basically take all of your org agenda files and find entries that are due soon so that you can be notified of them. So we're going to see an example of that right now. So I've got this simple little snippet for use package for org alert, and we will just go ahead and evaluate this. And we're enabling org alert in the configuration section so that we're starting up its background timer, basically. So right now, and actually by default, if you were to look at the org alert interval variable, we're using Control-HV to do that. The value is set to 300. That's actually the default value. I believe that's 5 minutes. So I can actually check that in the mini buffer. I'm going to do divide 300 by 60. And that's 5. Okay, so that's a 5-minute interval. So basically, org alert by default will check your agenda files every 5 minutes to see if there's any upcoming tasks that are scheduled or have a deadline attached to them. So to test this out, we're going to jump over to the tasks file that we created in, I think it was episode 6 of Emacs from scratch. And we have only one of these that has a deadline, and the deadline is already passed. So we're not actually seeing any, hey Cherry, we're not actually seeing, oh yes, and this is basically Cherry was one of the people that had asked for this, so this is for Cherry. So the deadline here is already passed. This was set on 10/12, which is probably the day that we had recorded that previous screencast. But today is the 21st. And I'm going to set this to have an actual specific time that it's due. And right now for me, it's 9:21 a.m. So I'm going to set this as due for 9:31, let's say. And one way that you can invoke this to show the notification immediately is to call the org alert check function. So if I call org alert check, then we have a reminder here saying that merge the PR is due. So was that the one that we actually set a reminder for? Yeah, so because merge the PR is due in about 10 minutes, when I run org check or org alert check, it gives me this desktop notification. So that's because we set the alert default style to notifications. So alert default style actually is a variable for the alert.el package, and if we look at the documentation for that, we see that, well, actually it doesn't tell you here what it is, but I think if you, actually let's go back to the alert page. So if you look at the README for alert.el, there's a section that basically says what the built-in alert styles are. There's quite a few of them here. Part of the power of alert.el is that it has different types of alerts for different platforms. So for instance, if you use OS X or Mac OS, whatever they call it these days, there's like growl notifications or OS X notifier, etc. For Linux systems, you would often use something like notifications because that can notify via dbus, or libnotify, which requires a program called notify-send on the path. So, hi David, thanks a lot. So we're going to change this actually to be, let's say, message instead. So we'll just let it write out to the message log instead. So we'll just see what that looks like. So I'm going to change this to message. Then I'm going to reevaluate this block with Control-X-E. And then I'll run org alert check again. And this time it doesn't seem to remind me, but let's check the messages buffer to see if it's there. Yeah, okay, so I think that this actually got written to messages. Somehow it didn't show up in the mini buffer, but I didn't test this beforehand, so I don't know why it didn't show up in the mini buffer. So let's see. Was there anything else that would be cool to try? There's also a fringe. It changes the fringe's background color. That's kind of weird. Let's see what that does. Fringe. So what I'm expecting is that over on the left-hand side of the screen, it should flash the fringe whenever the notification pops up. So let's, oh, there, it did it right then. So let's just hit that again. Org alert check. Interestingly, that did not work. It worked the first time, but let's see. Maybe we should go and change that deadline to be a little bit further in the future. So let's put 9:34 and then org alert check. Okay, that didn't work. So let's see. Is there a variable for org alert? No. So basically, it doesn't seem that you can configure the sort of delta of time before the item is due, before the notifications will appear. Maybe if I put this closer to right now, so maybe 28, let's say. Org alert check. Okay, that's interesting. So the one that definitely works for me is notifications, which is using dbus for that. So let me do this one more time. I'm going to run this, and all of a sudden you see that it gives me the notification. If I run org alert check, org alert check again, we get the notification again. So that one works reliably. The rest, I'm not so sure about, but maybe it's just the way that I have my current system set up. So your mileage may vary. You should definitely try it out and see which one works best for you. And if you see other notifications popping up in the meantime, that's because I'm playing music in the background and they are also giving notifications. So the pros of org alert is that it's simple, does a job. I mean, you could see that the let's see. Let me do one more thing. I'm gonna schedule a different task. Yeah, scheduled. I'm gonna put this in the past, so maybe it's already happened. And I'm gonna run org alert check. So whenever I was trying this out before, it would basically remind me whatever the interval was, it would remind me of things that had already passed. If I set this as deadline, maybe that will make it work. Deadline. Not even that one. Okay, interesting. Well, my experience was that it would keep reminding you of the things that are overdue, but maybe that's actually not this one. Then maybe it was one of the other ones I was trying. However, the point being, the downside of this package is that every time it hits the interval, it's going to remind you about any tasks that are coming up due. And that can be a little annoying because you're going to keep seeing notifications all day long for the same tasks until they're done or until you reschedule them so they're not within the window that they consider that that task to be coming up. So if you want to be notified repeatedly about the things that you have coming up due, that might be useful for you. But for me, that was a little bit annoying, so it's not really the best for me. The other pro of this is it does use alert.el, so it gives you that flexibility for different types of notifications when they work, because they didn't seem to work for me. But the cons are, like, you can't really easily tell it which tasks from your org files that you want it to show notifications for. There is a way to do that. So there is an org alert headline regex. And basically it requires you to set up an Emacs formatted regular expression to say which tasks would have notifications fired for them. I don't really like this approach because I feel like, I mean, it gives you a lot of power, obviously, because you can use a regular expression to match anything. However, it's harder to configure. So if you wanted to say, I want to only show notifications for tasks with a particular tag, you could do that, but you have to figure out how to write a regular expression for it. So I don't really like it for that reason, but it does give you the power to do it if you wanted to do it that way. So also what I did notice is that sort of by default, it does not give you notifications for timestamped items. So if I were to go to the birthdays.org file, and if I was to set Joe's birthday to be on the 21st, I mean, technically you would expect it to show a reminder for that because it does show up in the org agenda. So if I load up the org agenda, we can see, that birthday is Joe. So Joe's birthday does show up for today. However, if you run org alert check, it doesn't give you a reminder for that one. So I don't know whether it just, like, if it's a matter of whether you have to set up a regular expression to find that, which would be kind of painful, or not. So it's probably possible, but it's just a thing that you have to figure out how to do. So the next package that we're going to talk about is org wild notifier. This is one that I mentioned in, I want to say, episode 7 of the Emacs from Scratch series. Because it's something that I've used in the past, and it's been, pretty successful for me. But I had stopped using it, and now when I try to start using it again for the purpose of showing it here, I have some issues. And I think Cherry also had some issues with this whenever they tried to set it up. So hopefully today it will cooperate. I don't mean for that to make it sound like the package is not good. It actually does some cool stuff, so we're about to find that out. So basically, org wild notifier gives you some more ways to configure the way that you are sourcing these tasks for notification purposes. So you can see that we're also going to set the alert default style here because you do want to know, you want to set the type of notification you're going to receive for these. But the interesting thing about org wild notifier is that it has this configurable alert time. So instead of it just telling you about whatever upcoming tasks are happening, probably just by listing whatever the agenda items are for the day, org wild notifier will let you say, okay, so for these particular intervals, I want to get notifications. I want to know when something is 30 minutes from being due. Let me turn off org alert. We can run org alert disable to turn that off. So for whenever something is due in 30 minutes, I want a reminder. When something is due in 10 minutes, I want a reminder. And if something is due like in 1 minute, I want a reminder. So that's basically what we're saying here. We're saying for this variable, we're giving a list of durations for when we're going to be reminded about a task being due or whenever it's scheduled. So let's just go ahead. Let me change this real quick and I'll explain what it does in a moment. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention before was that you can set the notification title. So I think by default, it just says org or something. But if you want to change the title of your notification titles, notification reminders, whatever you want to call it, you can set that for org alert using org alert notification title, and similarly for org wild notification notifier notification title. So that's another thing you can do to customize how things appear. So let me just go ahead and run this block of config that turns on org wild notifier mode. And since we have our alert time set to 1, 10, and 30 minutes, I'm going to go and set up a task so that it is going to pop for that. So let's say we want this task to be, today's 21st, we want it to be at 9:40. So I'll say 9:41, so that it triggers the 10-minute timer. So I'm going to run org wild notifier check similarly to org alert check so that it fires that. So right now we don't see anything happening, and this happened to me before, and it was very difficult to figure out why it was happening. So I'm going to mess around a little bit to see if I can actually trigger this to happen. So now I'll put it to 39. So it's kind of strange. Like, this is one of the downsides of this package, is that things don't fire reliably. And Jerry, if you remember what you had to do to make it work, that would be helpful. But sometimes it worked for me, sometimes it did not, which is a very strange thing. Let me hit this one more time and go back and try to... Okay, so this is a deadline. Let's change this to scheduled. Let's see if we can get it to work. And org wild notifier mode. Let's put it closer to the current time. So we'll say 9:34. Okay, that's a different notification. Go away. Okay, so yeah. So like I said, this one is a little bit finicky, and that's sort of the reason why it might not work perfectly for you, for your purposes. I will change this one to just in case that jogs its memory. So we'll say 9:45 for this one, and run org wild notifier check again. So let's see. So I will try one other thing here. So org wild notifier allows you to filter things based on keywords. So like a keyword being like the task state, like to do, etc. By default, it looks for anything that's a to-do item. But if you also wanted to check for next, you could add next here. So like if you add a custom task state for like next actions, like I do sometimes, you can set that up. And then in tasks, let's try running this. Oh, that's probably why that didn't work. Let's try running this one more time. Okay, so that didn't work. Try to add this next and put this to 9:45 also. Yeah, so I'm having zero luck with this today. I apologize for that, because it had worked on the other machine I tried it on, but this one is just not cooperating. And, you know, the funny thing is that maybe in about, 4 minutes, we're going to see a deluge of notifications because it's finally going to wake up. So one reason why this might be happening is that org wild notifier does things asynchronously. It does this so that if you have like very large agenda files that have a lot of dates and stuff in it, it can slow down your Emacs whenever it has to check for that to happen. Org alert does it synchronously, I believe, so that whenever it does its interval timer, it scans all your agenda files right on the main thread of Emacs and then sort of blocks it. So it could take, a second or two before Emacs wakes back up again. Org wild notifier does not do this. It does things in the background, but then it makes it harder to figure out why things aren't working. So that's just a caveat there. If I do manage it to, let's see, Cherry says they use init org wild notifier mode. Yeah, I tried that too. And apparently it works for them, so let's just try that. I think this is basically the same as what we've been doing, but let's see, init org wild notifier mode. So yeah, I don't think that it makes a difference here. Interesting. So anyway, what I was going to say is that if I manage to get this working, I will update the blog post with the details about what happened and also the comments of the description of the video to give information on that. We might try it again one more time after I talked about the last package, just to see if we can make it work, but I'm trying not to take up too much time in this video today. So So let's just talk about other features that it has real quick before we move on. So org wild notifier. So you can also, aside from the white list for the keywords you want to use, you can also have a black list. So if you wanted to look at any keywords except for a small set of them, you can do that. But you also would need to I think you have to set your whitelist to nil in that case. So setting it to nil basically means there's no filter, just show me reminders for any tasks that have a deadline or schedule set on them. And then you can also set org wild notifier tags, whitelist or blacklist for the same thing. So basically, if you have a particular tag that you use for like calendar events, or you just want to see notifications for a certain type of task that you have in your agenda files, you can set that here. That would also be a list of tag names. So let's see what else. So this one does not repeatedly notify on tasks with deadlines that have passed. I think that was the case, but I believe Jerry just said that it does do that. So maybe I'm wrong about that. This thing has been very unreliable for me, so that could be a problem. Notifications don't show predictably at times, and it does require a little bit of custom configuration if you want to use different task states like next, etc. So that's just something to keep in mind. However, you can see this is pretty simple configuration. So if it does work for you, this can be a good package. So the last one that we're going to talk about today is org notify. And this is actually part of org mode's distribution. It's part of the contrib set of things, which is basically user contributed packages that get shipped alongside org mode whenever you install it a certain way. Org notify is, I would say, the most advanced of the three because it gives you a lot of flexibility on how you configure notifications for different types of things, and also what types of notifications get fired at different times for a task that's coming up due. So we'll show a little example of that. I will say I have not got to play with this much in advance before filming this, so we're going to figure it out together right now. It may go down in flames. We'll see what happens. One other interesting thing to note about this particular implementation is that it uses Emacs built-in desktop notifications API. And that is basically an API that interacts with the dbus session of the current host. So on Linux or Mac OS, you have to have a dbus session running that has an application that's listening for events for notifications that can show them on the screen. The notifications that we're seeing right now are coming from dbus in that way. But on Mac OS, that's not set up by default. So if you want to use org notify on Mac OS, you have to either make sure you have dbus set up somehow to forward notifications along to Mac OS notification system, or you have to basically hack the code for org notify and replace the function that it uses for notifications so that you can pass it on to something else instead that is specific to the macOS platform. So that's a caveat that you should know about, but if that doesn't matter to you, then this might be a good option. So we are going to change how we install the org mode package. So this is a little trick about use package that I forget about until I have to figure out how to do this particular thing again. So with use package, whenever you use ensure, you can also say the name of the package on the package repository to install to get the functionality. So the name for use package here is the name of the module that you're trying to load, but then ensure you can give it a different name for the package to install. So normally we would just install the org package because we want org mode, but in this case we want to have the contrib extensions to org mode. So we're going to say org plus contrib here on this ensure line, and that's going to make sure that the extra files are installed. Once that's installed, we can use package on org notify to load that module. And also, we're basically going to say ensure nil because this doesn't actually exist as a package on the on ELPA or MELPA, etc. So we don't want to try to install it from somewhere. We just want to load it basically. And then we're going to make sure that this comes up after org. So whenever we're loading our configuration file, we want this to be loaded after org gets loaded fully. And then we can call org notify start to start its background process for checking your agenda files, and then it will start showing notifications immediately. So I can go ahead and run this, and I don't think there's a function to invoke it. However, if I were to go into my tasks file, and let's say that this deadline had passed already. So I'm going to go to 9:38. So now I think this is coming from... I can't tell exactly which one this is coming from, unfortunately. Actually, it must be coming from org notify, because it would have the org wild notifier header if it was coming from org wild notifier. So I think this one actually is coming from there. The reason why is because by default, at that moment, I think it was already due 9 hours, 39 minutes ago. 21. Oh, wow. Okay, so I think that I was like in the middle of typing it when it tried to look at that. So let's run this again. Org notifier start. I'm trying to see if I can invoke it by doing that. I guess it has to go through its own interval first, which is a little bit unfortunate. Let me check to see if there is an org notify. Trying to see if there is a way to invoke it. Stop. You know, how about this? Let's just dig into the code. Org notify start. We'll see what it calls whenever the timer hits itself. So org notify process. So that is a function. So can we call that? Let's see if I can run it in. So I'm using basically it's alt colon. Okay, so that one actually did show up correctly. So this says that 2 minutes and 51 seconds ago, merge the PR was due. So that's cool. So let's see, I will use org notify process, and let's see if it fails. Okay, so it didn't actually give me anything here. So let's see, let me try it one more time. All right, cool. I'm gonna try maybe fun call, org notify process. Okay, neither of those worked. No problem. So at least we are seeing something happen every now and then. We are seeing notifications for that. Let me go and set up one that is coming soon. So this one should technically be getting notifications, but it's not yet because I think we need to actually configure extra rules for tasks that aren't yet due. Dean says, have you used Emacs application framework? It also uses dbus. I've heard people mention it a lot, but I have not used it yet. But that's something I would like to investigate a little bit in another stream, so that'd be cool. So let's see what we can do for org notify. So one other sort of downside of org notify is that they don't really give you good documentation. The only documentation I've seen on how to use it actually is in the comments for the package itself. So it gives a couple examples here for org notify add. So this is how you can add rules for this. Let me check and see what this function does. I think that the function itself is decently documented. So the signature is, the first parameter is name of some sort, and then the rest are parameters. So the name can be used in the org mode property notify. If name is default, the notification type applies for to-do items without the notification property. This file predefines such a default notification type. So apparently there's a default notification registered already, but if you want to add custom notifications, you can have a property on your org mode task items, or any, it doesn't even have to be a task, it could be any kind of org item. So it could be a non-task item that has a property called notify. Let's see. And then the name that you use here is supposed to correspond to that. So I think that we can use default for any type of task item. So let's go back to our configuration example and see if we can add that. So org notify add, we're gonna say default here. And then let's see what else they have to say in the documentation. Is it the right one? No. Org notify add. So there is a list of possible parameters. There is a time distance to the deadline when this type of notification shall start. It's a string followed by a unit. So yes, we see we're still getting notifications for the past task. So if we were to look at, is there an example here? Yeah, we've got too many different things we have to look at the same time, which is a little unfortunate. Org notify. So if we're looking at this example here, we can see that we have time -1 second, period every 20 seconds, duration 10. So apparently what this means is every 20 seconds, I think every 20 seconds it's going to look for these type of tasks. It can be used to repeat the actions periodically. And then time is the distance to the deadline. So I think if it's negative, then it means if it's anything more than 1 second after the task was supposed to be complete, it's going to remind you about it. There's also, let's see, let's copy this one because it seems kind of interesting. So we're going to drop that down and we're going to uncomment this. I don't have a commenting package hooked up. So we have a new rule. And so this says every 2 minutes. Just for the sake of our own sanity, we're going to say every 5 seconds we're going to do this. Don't do this in reality because it would drive you crazy. And for 10 minutes before the task is due, we're going to try to check for that notification. So let's see. I will try to run this. And now every 5 seconds, in theory, a task that is due in 10 minutes should be notified. So let's go and make sure that we have one like that. So this one, let's set this to 9:55. And next time that timer pops, hopefully it will give us the notification for buy milk. So let's see whether that happens. Yeah, Kevin also says that he tried org-babel notifier and it's not working for him either. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with that, but that's the way it goes with Emacs sometimes. Packages will not work for inexplicable reasons, and the only way to deal with that is to dig into the code and try to figure it out. So let's see. This one does not seem to be giving us notifications currently. I'm curious as to why that's happening. So let's take a look. So with to-do items for blah, 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 3 days before deadline. Where does it even say that? Okay, time 3 days. Yeah, I'm basically trying to figure out the way to make this show up in our case. Maybe I need to restart org notify. Let's see, org notify stop. And then I'll run org notify start again. I don't know if it's necessary to do that, but we'll find out in a moment. And then let's look one more time at the configuration we were setting up for that. So yeah, we're saying for the default task, or so sorry, the default type of task, basically, we want to, for 10 minutes before, every 5 seconds we're checking, a duration of 100, which I think that means how long the notification stays visible. And then we want it to notify. So currently it's not working, which is a little unfortunate. Let's go back to our task.org and try that one more time. So still, it's complaining about merge the PR, which is nice, I guess, if you really needed to merge that PR, but we want it to work for this too. Let's go more than 10 minutes. Let's say if it's, so right now for me, it is 9:48. So let's say if it's 9:59 is the deadline on this one, and let's see if it will show us anything. So I'll try stopping and restarting again. Maybe that's a bad idea because maybe it restarts the timer, but let's see what it does. You know, it's supposed to be running this org notify process, but I never see it actually do anything when I run it. So maybe we should check the code for that and see what it does. Org notify process. Yeah. Yep, still just merge the PR. Yeah, so that's sort of the downside of this particular package is that, you know, we don't have documentation. And honestly, like I tried looking for blog posts and other sources of info on how to use it, and I couldn't really find anything. Maybe it's because I didn't search long enough, but this particular one seems to be also a little bit elusive on how to get it to work correctly. So let's see. Is there anything else we can try? Some actions use parameters special duration of the notification. Repeat actions periodically. Time, distance to deadline. When it shall start. Okay, so it has to be within the 10 minutes. So that's what I'm understanding now. Let me go back to what we were configuring before. So within 10 minutes from the time the task is due, every 5 seconds we should be notifying about this task. So let me check one more time. So 9:59. So let's put this to be 9:52, and maybe it will work. Maybe we can always hope, right? and then I'll make this a to-do. So that could be something that's tripping it up also. It's working fine for merge the PR, but for buy milk it's not working. So we want to make sure that we are doing things correctly there. Another thing we can try is to be specific. So it says to have a property called notify. I'm gonna say reminder. Whoop, let's actually make this just reminder, and we will go and do another org notify add for reminder. And let me evaluate that real quick. Now, if that works, that's going to be a little bit unfortunate, but that will give us some useful clues. One thing we can also do is to try to find out what variable they hold all of the rules in. So if I were to look in this file, org notify add. So org notify add default time 1 hour actions notify / window. Now that's interesting. I didn't see that one before. Period 2 minutes. So every 2 minutes are checking. The duration 60. Now we need to understand what this duration means. So actions notify / window. So let's see what that means actually. Notify / window. So let's undo our window changes here. Oh, okay. Winner undo. Great. Evil window undo. Okay, don't have that functionality here in this. So let's look at this real quick. So actions, org notify action notify / window. For a graphics display, pop up a notification window. For a text, pop up a notification window. Okay, weird. Doesn't seem to make a difference. Now we're seeing merge the PR twice, which is interesting. Who knows why that's happening? Okay, so unfortunately, that is not working as intended, but hopefully it does give you an idea of what the different options are for doing notifications for your org mode tasks in your agenda. So let me see if there's anything else I wanted to mention about that. So it does allow you to be very granular about how you configure your notifications for different things. Like you were able to see in that example, it does let you do things like, let's see. So like different notification types for different intervals. So like if it's, beyond the deadline, it's gonna make a noise, it's gonna make a ding noise. Within 15 minutes, it's gonna send you a notification on the screen. Within 2 hours, it's just gonna put a message in your mini buffer. And within 3 days, it's gonna send you an email. So I don't know exactly how it does the email thing, but you can set up different ways of notifying for things that are coming up due. So it's very nice. And from that perspective, it does give you a lot of flexibility when it does work. So that's a good benefit of this particular one. And also, one thing that we didn't get to see here because my notifications tool Dunst doesn't seem to show this, or I haven't configured it to show it, but the notifications that it shows can provide actions. So like it can reschedule your task or mark it done, etc. So if your notification system has the ability to show action buttons, then these notifications will have actions so that you can move your deadlines, etc., which is kind of nice. I haven't seen that functionality in any of the other packages for this, so it's something that you might want to keep in mind if you're looking for a particular, if you're looking for a little bit more power, I guess you could say, in your notifications. So since this is a live stream, I was going to throw the sort of last questions over to the audience in case anyone has any thoughts or questions about this. And while we're waiting for questions, I'm going to see if I can make one of these work in the meantime, because it's a little bit disappointing that nothing was working except for org alert. So yeah, let me know if you have questions about org reminders. So let's see. I'm going to put this to, so 10, okay, this one was working fine, but I'm going to put it to the future to see if it keeps complaining at us. So 10, let's say within 10 minutes, so 10:03 a.m. So we have a deadline for 10:03 a.m. It's going to be interesting if deadline is the thing that makes this show up and not scheduled. So let's just see what happens. And I think that org notify start is already running, so that should work. And this didn't particularly work, which is interesting, but I'll take that back out now because it didn't do anything. So this one also, let's try a different configuration on that. So for default, I will add a new one. I'm gonna call it, yeah, see, interestingly, this is saying 8 minutes, 23 seconds ago after I've already changed the buffer and I've saved it. So it's not 8 minutes ago, now it's in the future. So it's kind of weird that it's doing it that way, but what can you do? All right, so let's see, let's try with notify window this time. We'll give it a duration of 50. And yeah, we're saying every 5 seconds, which is what we want. And within 10 minutes, so I will run that. Also, like I said before, let's actually see if we can figure out where it adds these. So an org notify add is adding them to org notify map. Let me check that variable. So for default, yeah, that's so weird. I wonder if it's got some things queued up that are wrong. So for our org notify map, for default we see, we have a reminder for 10 minutes, period 5 seconds. Now, I thought we ran the other one that I just put in here. It doesn't actually show up yet. Let's try that one more time. Maybe because it's the same interval. So what about 7 minutes? Will it duplicate that? No. Maybe it depends on the action type. It's very interesting how it decides what it wants to prioritize, because you're supposed to, oh, okay, that's the reason why, because I need to add it to the same one. So that's something good to know. So org notify add it's like a list of rules for a particular type, and if you run it again, it overwrites it. So let's do that one more time. So now we can see there's multiple rules for default. If we were to go back to that variable org notify map, was that it? Map. Org notify. Oh, jeez. Org notify. Let's go. /map. Yes, org notify map. Yeah, okay, we see 2 rules here. So anyway, in theory, it should be working. I don't know if it's just a matter of it being maybe something is not set up the way that it expects in my tasks file. I mean, it keeps complaining about this merge the PR. Okay, so now it does say 6 minutes 23 seconds. I believe that's correct. So 10:03 is about 6 minutes from now. So that one in particular is being picked up correctly. So what about this? Maybe deadline is what it's looking for. So let's see if that works. So merge the PR, sure, fine. But what about buy milk? Are you going to tell me about that one? Okay, that one's already passed. Let's put this at 10:04. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe that will work. And let's go back to our config real quick and see what I had set for that. So 10 minutes, 7 minutes. So 3. Yeah, this should be working. That's very strange how this does that. Let's check our agenda one more time to make sure this is showing up on the correct day, because who knows? Okay, so we have buy milk and we have the deadline for merge the PR. I'll put this at the same time as the other so that in theory it should be showing reminders for both. Okay, it only shows for merge the PR. You know, that's very strange. Maybe it's something that has to do with, oh, say the A here may actually indicate there's more than just that one. So let me look up how to do that in Dunst real quick. Because if it's just a matter of my own notification system shooting me in the foot, then, well, it'll be a little disappointing. So let's see here. We're going to look at the Dunst config. I think this is it right now. Is there? Okay, so control grave. Okay, so there's a bunch of them here. Oh, that's the history, I think. Okay. Anyway, we are seeing notifications for one of them. Maybe it's just a matter of my notification system not showing multiple in that case. So I apologize for that because it wasn't actually working as expected, but I don't know. I think that we can call that done for today. We may revisit this topic in the future if we do manage to figure out how to make it work correctly. But for now, I think that that is enough of a coverage of these 3 possible options for org task reminders. As you can see, maybe the org alert one is the most reliable one because it's the most simple one. So it really just depends on what your tolerance to possible problems is whenever you try to mess with these things. But if you happen to have any questions about these, or you happen to figure out the right way to make it work, please feel free to leave a comment in the video comments. And also you can possibly send me a message on Twitter about it. Let's see if I can make that pop up. So, wrong window. We are on Twitter at, yes, interesting. It's not showing up right now. Nothing seems to be working today. I think my whole system is just totally borked. Anyway, we're on Twitter at @SystemCrafters. So if you want to send a message there as well to give me any information about what happens. Also, we just started up a new Discord for folks in the community to chat about Emacs and related topics. So if you want to continue discussing this topic there to try to figure out a way to make things work, please join the Discord. There will be a link in the description for that. So if you just open up that link, then it will invite you into the Discord server and we can continue talking there. We have an Emacs channel and a few very nice people who've been already talking about some Emacs configuration stuff. So we would be very happy to have you there to be a part of that. Anyway, so the next Emacs tips video will be sometime next week. Could be Tuesday, could be Wednesday. I will definitely record it like this as a live stream at that time too. Hopefully I'll be more prepared next time to make sure that we don't have any hiccups. I think that probably another topic will not be so fraught with peril. So that time, maybe things will be better. So we will see you for Emacs tips next week, but also come back on Friday, 2 days from now, for the next installment of the Emacs from Scratch series, where we will be talking about LSP mode. David asks, are you going to show us how to set up Discord in Emacs? I do have a video planned for that. I'm not exactly sure when I'll get to it, but the short version of the story is there is a plugin for the program Biddleby, which allows you to connect to Discord and expose it to your local Emacs as an IRC server. So you can use Discord via Emacs through ERC, the IRC client. So I will cover that at some point in the future because I think that would be pretty useful. And I don't know if you just saw that, but we just got an org-wild notifier notification all of a sudden. I don't know why it just decided to start working, but like I said, it's a little bit flaky, but it is what it is. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining today. I really appreciate the people who joined in the chat. I hope to see you all again next time. Thanks again, and until next time, happy hacking. Thanks a lot.